Okay, hi everyone. So welcome back to part 2 of the second lecture on linear regression. And this lecture will be on gradient descent and optimization, right? So we spoke about this in part 1, that the kind of critical problem in learning is to actually search over my function space or my hypothesis space, right? And if my function can be parameterized in a simple way, like the way it's done in linear regression, I have a and b as my parameters. I want to search over my A and B. Since these are continuous variables, this is basically can be posed as an optimization problem. Right? So we'll actually see kind of more details in what exactly optimization is. But in some sense, this is my searching problem. Right? And in the cases where my searching problem can be represented as a continuous function, this becomes essentially a continuous optimization. Right? So I'll just write down over here. This is actually a continuous optimization problem. Okay, so the kind of principal idea of optimization relies on the framework of gradient descent, and in fact the framework of gradient descent is actually a very rich algorithmic framework for continuous optimization, and a whole lot of machine learning actually boils down to using gradient descent and variants of gradient descent, right? So not just regression, right? So today we'll be talking about regression, but it applies to regression, but beyond regression to various forms of classification. If you are familiar with the with kind of machine learning and the deep learning paradigm, right? Gradient descent applies to deep learning. Gradient descent applies to forms of unsupervised learning. Gradient descent applies to forms of recommendation system ranking, right? It also applies to reinforcement learning, right? So a whole lot of basically approaches in machine learning rely fundamentally on gradient descent, right? So this is a very fundamental framework. We'll study the basics of gradient descent today. I mean, very basic aspects of gradient descent, and we'll actually study particularly gradient descent to optimize the class of differentiable functions, right? Convex and differentiable functions. So we'll actually see convexity right now, right? But in some sense, f is what we mean by f being a class of continuous functions is that it operates on continuous value vectors, right? So this is what is known as continuous functions, and we say that a function is differentiable if its derivative exists. Right? So there are a lot of functions which are kind of contrived and non-differentiable, but most functions that we see in kind of many real-world applications. Of course, few of them are not differentiable, but many of them would actually be differentiable. Right? So if we know that the function f is actually convex and differentiable, then we can define the notion of convexity as follows. So the notion of convexity is that lambda times fx plus 1 minus lambda times fy is greater than f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda times y. Okay, so here x and y are vectors in r raised to n. Okay, and f is a function that goes from r raised to n to r. So intuitively, you can think of these class of functions as basically bowl-shaped functions, right? And now I have this function as so this is my x, right, and this is f of x. Okay, so now given two values, basically x and y. Okay, so this is x and y, and this corresponding values are f of x and f of y. Okay, so the main idea of convexity, right? If I take a kind of a bowl-shaped function like this, then this point lambda. So the point that I get in the middle over here is basically lambda times x plus 1 minus lambda times y. Okay, and if I were to join these with a straight line, right, there is a point that I get on the straight line, right, and the point on the straight line is actually lambda times fx plus 1 minus lambda times y. Okay? So all it says is that if I can zoom in over here, right, all that it says is that this point over here, which is basically lambda times fx plus 1 minus lambda times fy, right, is actually above the f value of this point, right? So this point is basically the center point is lambda times x plus 1 minus lambda times y, and this point is f of lambda times x plus 1 minus lambda times y, right? So all it means is that this value is actually greater than or equal to the value of the function. That's what this expression said. But for simplicity, right, just think of convex functions as bowl-shaped functions. Okay, so If a function is something like this is not convex. In fact, such functions are called concave. Okay, if I have a function like this is also not convex. So only my bowl-shaped functions are convex. Now the reason why convexity is special is because it turns out that gradient descent, which we'll actually introduce in the next slide, is a very simple algorithm, but it works exactly for convex functions. So you can get very close to the optimal if the function is convex. If the function is not convex, in general, you can't say anything much, right? So it turns out that for deep functions, still you can say, I mean, for deep models in machine learning, you can still say something more, even though it's actually not convex. But anyway, so the framework of gradient descent as such does not require convexity, but just convexity is kind of a good theoretical tool to know about, right? So now given a function f, as long as it's differentiable, right, if the gradient exists, I can provide a simple gradient based algorithm, right? So the gradient based algorithm is to pick an initial point x0, right? And then define the algorithm as xt plus 1 equal to xt minus gamma t times gradient of f of xt, right? So I think one piece that I'll just kind of talk about very briefly over here is that in general, in our notation, we use xm and ym. X are the features, right? So this is not the x that I'm using over here. In fact, in our case, this would actually be theta, right? So we call theta as the parameter. So theta 0 is the initial set of parameters. And then I can do, say, basically theta t plus 1 is theta t minus this particular quantity times the gradient of theta t, right? So this particular quantity is actually called the learning rate. Okay, so now what is theta t? Okay, so recall in the case of my linear regression, right? So I have my loss function, which was basically f of a comma b. So these are my thetas. Okay, so this is my parameter a comma b. This can be written as sum over n from 1 to m. So I have capital N training data points, and then I have a transpose x m plus ym minus b. Sorry, this is actually, so just kind of redo this a little bit. So this is a transpose xm plus b. So this is my class of functions, right? Minus ym. So ym is my true label, right? So a transpose x plus b is my model minus ym, right? So this was the function f of a comma b in the case of linear regression, and these are my parameters. Okay, so my gradient descent I will be applying to a and b in the case of linear regression. So we actually see this in more detail in the next few slides. I just wanted to kind of put this out so there's no confusion. Okay, so one thing I'd like to point out is that the basics of convexity and gradient descent, I actually cover this in my class called Optimization in Machine Learning, which was in spring 2020. I have my GitHub lecture notes and slides there. Unfortunately, I don't have videos recorded, but soon, hopefully, I'll be able to record some videos on optimization in machine learning. So I will put some more videos out, hopefully soon. So in particular, I'd encourage you to go through my lecture notes, see lecture 1 and 2 for basics on optimization, lectures 3 to 5 for basics on convex functions and examples of convex functions, and lecture 6 to 8 on actually basics of gradient descent. So these slides have a kind of substantially more mathematical depth. So if you're not kind of interested in the mathematical details, you can actually ignore that portion, like things like convergence analysis and proofs, etc. Okay, so now we'll actually see gradient descent in action, right? So this is a simple one-dimensional case. So the function is just f of x equal to x square. The gradient of this is basically just a derivative, right, which is dfx over dx, which is 2x. Okay, so now I start with this point minus 4, right? So what's the gradient over here? Minus 4. So the gradient at minus 4, so I'll just call the gradient at x equal to minus 4 is basically minus 8, right? So it's 2 multiplied by x. So in this case, the gradient actually will be in this direction. Okay, but to get this, so if you recall, right, x1 for example would be x0, okay, minus the step size, which is just a constant over here, 0.8, right, times the gradient, which actually in our case is basically minus 2x. So there's a negative over here. So in this case, it will actually be x0 plus gamma times 2x. So this is exactly what is going on over here. And if you see, this point actually is 2.4. So what it means is that I actually take a step size like this in this direction, and I reach this point, which is at 2.4. Okay, so this is my first gradient step. So here I have this point is my x1. Okay, so now I continue gradient descent. I go to the next step. Starting at x1, I take one more gradient descent step. Now my gradient will be in this direction. Right, so you can again do the math. You will see that this 2.4 minus 0.8 times 2 multiplied by 2.4, right? So you'll actually see that this point is minus 1.44. So that means that you actually take this step and you reach x2, right, which is over here, and so on. So you keep continuing doing this. You will actually come to this point, which is x2, right? And then from x2 you will come to this point x3, which I think is this one, right? So this is x3, right? From x3 you come to this point x4. From x4 you come to x5, and finally you will converge at x30, which is this point. You will see that this value is very, very close to 0, right? So because of the bowl-shaped function, just in 30 iterations of this very simple gradient descent algorithm, we have reached the global minima. If you see this bowl-shaped function, this is the point which is the global minima, which is x equal to 0. And this point is very, very close to 0, right? So gradient descent, one important thing is that gradient descent is actually a numerical algorithm, right? So which means that we won't get exactly the global solution, but we'll come very, very close to the global solution. Okay. Okay, so now we specifically look at the kind of linear regression loss function, and now we'll see what the gradient is. Right? So what's the gradient of this simple linear regression? Okay, so I'll actually derive the gradient over here. So we saw that this is f of AB as so I think here there is a 1 over m, so I'll keep the 1 over m just for consistency, and then there is a sum over m from 1 to capital M, and this term is essentially a times xm. Okay, so I'll just do this in one dimension to start with. So I think I'll assume a basically is a real number and b is a real number. Okay, so basically gradients are derivatives over here. So axm plus b minus ym squared. Okay, so now the gradient of f with respect to a. Okay, so I first take the derivative with respect to a. So this is just simple one-dimensional stuff. We can just do derivatives. You probably have to refresh your knowledge of derivatives, but if you recall, you can use the chain rule over here, right? So I have this function, and then I have this squared function. So the gradient is nothing but 1 over m, sum of m from 1 to capital M, right? And then the outer gradient is 2 times this value, right? And then you basically multiply, so you have 2 times this value, right, multiplied by the gradient of the inner term, right? So I'll just write this down explicitly. So this is 2 times a of xm plus b minus ym, right, multiplied by the gradient with respect to a, right? So this so basically a is the quantity we are taking the gradient of. So it's the gradient with respect to a of my inner term, right? So this is my inner term, so I just care about my inner term. Now this quantity and this quantity are actually independent of a, right? So all I have is 8 multiplied by xm, right? So basically outside I have xm. So that's it. That's the gradient with respect to A, right? So I can similarly compute the gradient with respect to B. Okay, so this is 1 over m, sum of m from 1 to capital M, right? Again, I have the same thing, 2 times A x m plus b minus ym. Okay, but now I just need to compute the derivative with respect to b, this inside term. This term is independent of b, right? So sorry, so basically this term is independent of b, right? This term is independent of b. This is the only term that depends on b, right? And the gradient with respect to this is actually 1. So there's nothing that gets multiplied here. This is all that it is for the gradient. Okay. So this is the gradient with respect to A, this is the gradient with respect to B, and then the way gradient descent will proceed is that at every iteration I will compute A of t plus 1 equal to AT minus the gradient of f, right, with respect to A at A equal to AT. So it means that I'm actually evaluating the gradient of this term at A equal to AT, right? Similarly, B of, actually there's a gamma t over here, which actually can be a constant. That is a step size. Similarly, b of t plus 1 is equal to bt minus gamma t times the gradient of f with respect to b, evaluating this at b equal to bt. Okay, so this is how gradient descent will proceed. This is a very simple one-dimensional case. So it turns out that in more than one dimension, it's also actually very, very similar. So here the only difference is that my A is here r raised to n, and then I have this dot product, right? So it's actually not very, it's not significantly more difficult than the n equal to 1 case that we saw in the last lecture, in the last slide, right? So derivation over here is actually simple, so I'll just go over this very, very quickly. So I have again f of a comma b as 1 over m, sum of m from 1 to capital M of my function, which is a times a transpose xm plus b minus ym square, right? So this is my loss term, right? So again I compute the gradient with respect to a. This is 1 over m equal to 1 to capital M, right? I again have this, I again have this term which is 2 multiplied by a transpose xm. So I'm just using a chain rule over here, right? So this is actually a scalar. So this is important to keep in mind. This is actually a scalar, and I take the gradient of this. So this is actually a transpose xm, right? So it's a slightly more involved kind of function over here. So I'll just so suppose I define g of a to be a transpose x m, right? So it turns out that the gradient of g with respect to a is actually x of m. So this is a vector. Note that the gradient here is a vector, right? But it's actually very easy to see this because you take the gradient now with respect to each of the components in A, right? So actually what's the gradient? So I'll just kind of quickly define this, so that it's kind of clear to everyone. So the gradient is actually the partial derivative with respect to g for each of my coordinates. So this is a1, the gradient with respect to a2, right, until my partial derivative until an. Okay, so this is an n-dimensional function. Okay, so the reason why it's actually the partial derivative. Okay, so like what's a partial derivative, right? Partial derivative means when I'm taking the derivative with respect to a1, which is the first coordinate, I actually ignore the other functions of a, right, the other terms of a. So what this means is that if I kind of write this function down, ga equal to is the sum of I from 1 to n of ai multiplied by xmi, right? So this is the ith coordinate of x and the ith coordinate of a, right? So when you take this partial derivative with respect to any of the ai's, you will see that you will actually get the partial derivative of g with respect to ai is actually exactly xim, right? So that's why this vector is actually exactly xm. Okay, so now having said this, the gradient with respect to a is actually this multiplied by xm. So if you see this is exactly the same expression as what we saw in the one-dimensional case. Just that this quantity now is a scalar and this quantity is a vector. Right? So this is basically a vector in r raised to n, which means that this gradient is actually a vector in r raised to n. Okay. It turns out that the gradient with respect to b is exactly the same as what we saw in the one-dimensional case. Okay? So same as 1D case, except that now I have this value over here. Okay, so I will not actually go into more details of the derivation over here. All right, so gradient descent is basically this very simple framework that we kind of saw. I think there are some technical conditions. I won't go into a lot of that in detail, but the key thing is that if f is convex, right? If f is convex, which it is in the case of the linear regression, simple linear regression. Okay? So it's actually convex because it's a bowl-shaped function. It's actually a quadratic function, which is a bowl-shaped function. So under certain technical conditions, we can show that we can actually get very close to the optimal solution. Right? So gradient descent is the approach to actually use. It turns out for non-convex functions, it does not converge to the global minimum, which is the actual minimum of f, but it converges to something called the local minimum. Okay, so very quickly, what a local minimum is that if I have a function like this, right, this could be a local minimum because in the neighborhood of this particular value, this is the minimum value, right? So it's not a global minimum, it's not the minimum everywhere, but both of these are local minimum, right? So, but this is only a local minimum, whereas this is actually the global minimum in this function case, assuming that it increases beyond everywhere. Okay. Okay, so actually with this I will end part 2, and in the next video we'll actually see part 3 of linear regression.